All right, so the Eagles. Let's start with the Eagles because we're talking about teams that went down early. Okay, or early or late, however you want to look at it. But I just want to say this. I woke up this morning and all the headlines are Jalen Hurts, 3 interceptions, yada, yada, yada. Didn't play well enough. I thought Jalen Hurts played well enough to win. Okay, like I know I might get killed over that and be called a homer, but I've been very honest about Jalen Hurts at different turns in his development and where I think his ceiling is or where I think it's not. I don't think he's the reason they lost this game. I thought he played pretty well the entire game, but the one fatal mistake, it kind of reminds me of Baltimore last week against Pittsburgh. I thought Lamar played a clean game, but they couldn't cash in. And at the end of the game, when he had to make a play, he didn't. Now, all Jalen Hurts had to do in this situation was not throw a pick. Fair. But I thought the rest of the game, you look at the other 2 picks, they're not on him per se. He was pressured 42% of the time. He had answers with his legs. You look at that first fucking possession. I tweeted he was big dog status. Mm-hmm. He's stiff arming people. He's wearing a guy. He's hitting AJ Brown outside the numbers. No run game, which is not the usual for them. But they had answers. Got Swift the ball out of the backfield, and they started with a 91-yard drive where he looked great.
How much did you feel like they missed Lane Johnson?
I think they missed Lane. But you're up 14-3. The explosives weren't there, but you're up 14-3. It was the miscues. It was the Goddard pick where Jermaine Johnson punches the ball out off of him. It's a pick. I mean, Driscoll got beat by Jermaine Johnson later in the game. That's Lane's replacement. He got a hand on Hurts' arm. The ball sails in the air. I don't put that on the quarterback. Maybe get the ball out a little quicker, but it's not a throw that he's staring down and throwing to the opposition. I mean, 1:52 to go. Mosley in the first half punches the ball off of Swift. And this is a big one for me. The middle 8 is huge. We talk about the middle 8 minutes of the game. Often decides the outcome of the game. You have a chance to go 2 for 1. Instead, you end up 14-9 and give them a field goal. You could come out and score a touchdown out of the half, but Devontae Smith drops a ball out of the half. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but he's wide open. Yeah. You're in plus territory. You end up 3rd and 23 instead. This was just not their day. They made mistakes. You missed that field goal late. That's not Jake Elliott. Would you carry 3rd and 8 at the end of the game where Jalen made that big mistake? Like, I didn't like how aggressive they were. And maybe they thought, hey, we're defending against a field goal in that situation. But if it was 17-12 and Jake hit that kick, which you're accustomed to seeing, then would you punt and just lay up on 3rd down? Because at that point, you're punting with a minute left at midfield, up 5, and the Jets have no timeouts. Even with the secondary, I like my chances. So I didn't like them being aggressive there, period. But Jake Elliott did not help them because I think they would have been less aggressive had they been up 17-12.
I think the important thing that I was going to keep my eye on going into this game was, I think it was 2 starting corners that were down for the Jets.
Yep. UVA zone. Bryce Hall,
and in a matchup against anybody in the NFL, that's tough to go out there and look even competitive. But then you throw out there AJ Brown, who's a physical mismatch week in, week out, and you've got another guy that's way different than Devontae. You've got a tight end threat, and you've got Swift out of the backfield. You would think that it's going to be a menacing challenge for the Jets. I think yesterday's game was much more telling about the Jets' defense than it is about the Eagles. To your point, Jalen, I mean, you can't have 4 turnovers and win in the National Football League. I don't care how good your team is. And the Lane Johnson thing, I mean, 40% plus of Jalen's dropbacks, he was under pressure. He was pressured.
And over the course of his career, no surprise, he's sub 500 in those situations. He's 25-5 when he's pressured less than 40%.
The end of the game, first down, get down, we call it church mode. You guys are defensive guys, so you're not in those meetings where they just repeat it. Mm-hmm. You're in the meetings where they say, tackle them inbound. Mm-hmm. Well, we're supposed to first down, get down. And I'm looking at the Jets down inside the 5, running play. It opens up like the Red Sea. Clearly the Eagles are in on the...
Letting them score.
They're going to let them score.
Yeah.
You got to get down.
Yeah.
I know it ended well, But that could have been the talk of the town.
Yeah,
this morning.
and Saleh spun it like, I'm not afraid. Like, I'm not, but like, I just don't think you were thinking about it. Because that's the first thing as a defensive player I'm thinking about is like, let these guys score. That's our only chance. So
you watch smart offenses. You watch offenses that have been there before and that have won a lot.
Yep.
Jerick McKinnon from the Chiefs.
Yep.
He's fucking getting out of the
team. Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, like, there were some great defensive players on the field. Reddick, Sweat made big plays. I want to shout out 2 guys from the Jets. Quincy Williams is a fucking dog, dude.
His hair is great, too.
He is a dog. I mean, he's out there in coverage on Devontae Smith. It's crazy. And then the best rusher of the game for me was Huff. And I talk about Huff all the time, but he's so unorthodox. He's so low to the ground. He'll get out and jog to that moment of truth at the top of the rush and then just dip and go full speed. He was winning on the left. He was winning on the right. He had 9 pressures. And Jermaine Johnson is a high draft pick for the Jets. You know, people don't talk about him a lot. I think he's overall a good player, but he had 2 of his biggest plays as a Jet. I mean, if he doesn't make that play on Goddard, if he doesn't make that play on the pick, he forced 2 picks.
Yep.
The only 2 picks that were not Jalen's fault, in my opinion, and it was Jermaine Johnson. So he created that. But even with the defense, even with and Saleh talked about the gauntlet of QBs they played, and he said he's embarrassed them, and he has. They've had Prescott, Allen, Mahomes, Wilson, and now Hurts. If you knew nothing coming into this stretch, Bills, Cowboys, Pats, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles, and you thought Aaron Rodgers was starting, you think maybe 3-3, 4-2, like that's
a cozy spot to be.
You would have felt good about that. 3-3, you would have been like, okay, we knew it was going to be tough. That's where they're sitting, you know. And they play 10 more QBs now, and included in that group is Jimmy G, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and C.J. Stroud, who I respect, but he's still a rookie. Okay, so like the light at the end of the tunnel is coming for this defense, and all they've done has made elite guys look bad. And I think that's something you can hang your hat on. And you know, in those situations, Zach Wilson had higher ratings than Allen, Mahomes, Hurts now. And so like it's easy to say, hey, they played the Jets defense, but he had to go play their defenses. So I just want to give the kid credit. Yeah. I want to give the kid credit. I don't want to get out ahead of it and say he had his best game last night, but he looked pretty fucking good. You know, like throw to Wilson backed up was like a wow throw. Conklin, they've really gotten a lot out of him. Even the incompletion early in the game on the left sideline, I'm like, that's a really competitive throw. And he didn't. He's been throwing the ball in 3 seconds flat, Kyle. You're an offensive lineman.
Love that guy.
That's not good.
I love that guy. If you're under 3 seconds, I'm happy.
He got to 2.75 yesterday.
If you're under 3, we can work with that. So you can't be back there jacking the ball off.
Yeah, you can't be back. Yeah, and so like it's not just the timing, Kyle. Yeah, that's what we would say.
That's what
it's
they
not
say.
just the timing. It's also the top end throws he made, and he didn't make the terrible throws. So I want to give Zach Wilson credit. And for the Eagles, the outlook is you got injuries, man. Like it's just more of the same. You got Ricks, Roby, Blankenship all got dinged.
And the stretch gets tough here for the Eagles.
You're playing the Dolphins next week. And as easy as it would be to look at the stretch, you need to look at the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And like I don't know when Jalen Carter's coming back, but you need all hands on deck up front. I think they missed him yesterday.
Yeah.
The right guard was getting baptized. Okay? But he would have been baptized over and over again all day, and it would have been, you know. So getting him back, getting these pieces healthy. I don't know what's happening with Lane. It worried me a lot. I mean, if there's anybody on the field, it's really hard being retired. It kind of puts me in the position of like my parents or you when you're watching me play, or me when I'm watching you play again. When like your buddy goes down, you know, for Lane, anybody to get hurt in the NFL, like that's the number one guy that I'm worried about. I mean, he's my closest friend that's still playing, and to see him go down like that, I thought high ankle. Hopefully the MRIs are okay, but we'll see. Like he's a huge piece of what they do, not just in the pass game, but in the run game. And they were down a couple guys yesterday. So am I worried about the Eagles? No more than I was last week.